The Toronto Raptors have staked their future in the potential development of their star players, but just how far can they really expect them to go in their Raptors career? We're going to answer that in today's video. Let's get into it. The primary core of the Toronto Raptors consists of three players: Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, and most importantly, Scottie Barnes, who will act as the centerpiece in theory of the franchise going forward. The Raptors have staked a lot of finances into these three players, in doing so themselves when they gave Scottie Barnes a rookie max extension, and once again by themselves when they gave Immanuel Quickley a 5-year contract worth $32.5 million. RJ Barrett already arrived to the Raptors from the New York Knicks with a pretty sizable contract, so the Raptors are really committing a lot of finances towards these three players. Essentially, this is it. These are the three players that need to lead the Raptors into the future. There just isn't really enough cap space to suggest that a big trade is going to go down. And, well, we can't really expect the Raptors to ever land themselves a real marquee free agent. So this is what the Raptors are working with. What they have bet on with this group of players in the current roster is internal development, especially heading into the first year of their rebuild. So as far as these three players are concerned, the leaders of this current Toronto Raptors team, how far can we actually expect them to go? Well, over the course of today's video on Amateur Sports, the YouTube channel dedicated to Toronto Raptors content, we're going to be discussing just that. Was a realistic projection of how far these players can go, an actual ceiling of how far these players can go, and what you should really be expecting out of these players. Starting with Immanuel Quickley, the oldest of the three players that we're going to be discussing here. And the great thing about Immanuel Quickley being the oldest of these three players is that Quickley is still only 25 years old. So what can we actually get out of Quickley? This is a tougher one to predict because Quickley has shifted his role so dramatically in the last 12 months. He was this, I would call him a spark plug scorer, coming off of the bench for the New York Knicks going into last season, coming off of a season where he nearly won the Sixth Man of the Year award. In fact, many people think that he should have won the Sixth Man of the Year award over Malcolm Brogdon. That did not come to fruition, but nonetheless, still, there was a ton of talent with the player as a scorer. The Raptors brought him in and just shifted that role. They wanted Immanuel Quickley to go back to his college days and play as a point guard, the lead playmaker for their team. And though some statistics revealed that, yes, Immanuel Quickley could do that, there was still a little bit of a learning curve that needed to take place for the player, especially amidst injuries, especially amidst the team tanking. We didn't get the full scope of what Immanuel Quickley could do in that position for the Raptors, but nonetheless, there was a lot of reason for optimism. Enough optimism, once again, to go for a $32.5 million a year contract for 5 years with the player, despite the fact that he was a restricted free agent, which we talked about in the previous video. Nonetheless, the Raptors feel like they have their guy here, and I can completely see why. Somebody who can maybe get up to 20 points per game in the future, can maybe get up to 8 assists per game. But how far is that actually going to take him? Can Immanuel Quickley get to a point where he is an all-star player? Well, let's look at the absolute ceiling of what Immanuel Quickley could do for the Raptors. I can say that there is talent here as a playmaker, enough as an absolute ceiling to get him to probably 8-9 assists per game. 10 assists per game is still quite high, especially for a player who wants to take on a lot of jumpers, just like Immanuel Quickley, especially for a player who has to share the ball and the playmaking load alongside RJ Barrett a little bit, but a lot needs to go to Scottie Barnes as well. So for Immanuel Quickley, I think that there is a pathway to be a very good playmaker for this team and also a good scorer. What's going to need to sharpen up from a scoring standpoint to get to that ceiling, we're going to need to have a bit more of a distribution from his three-point standpoint. He's a very good above-the-break three-point shooter. Not very good at all shooting from the corners. So I'd like to see a little bit of an improvement there to help with the floor spacing for the team, but nonetheless, a little bit more from a pull-up standpoint from threes. He started to take on a little bit more of that with the Raptors when he arrived to the team, but he needs to become a bigger pull-up threat from three, needs to sharpen up his playmaking to a finer degree, and he really needs to finish a lot more efficiently on the inside, amongst the trees, getting past the bigs. That's what's going to allow Immanuel Quickley to have this multi-level scoring approach where it's so difficult to guard him. In pick and rolls, you can't go under the screen because he's going to knock down that jumper in your face if you don't. If he has to get past you and go to the rim, he can finish amongst the trees and be efficient there while having the playmaking that, hey, if you do send doubles his way, he can kick out and make that happen. In that absolute ceiling standpoint, there's certainly a case to say that Immanuel Quickley can make a few all-star teams. But in the realistic expectation, he's 25 years old. By no means is he in his prime, and there's definitely still time to develop. But I think Immanuel Quickley, from a realistic standpoint, I think the playmaking will improve a little bit more. I think he will get up to around 8 assists per game. I'm not sure how much of the interior scoring is going to improve, but I see small improvements on the way from a pull-up shooting standpoint from 3. That's going to lead Immanuel Quickley to be right on the fringes of an all-star appearance over the course of the 5 years he's with the Raptors. Could he sneak in one season? I'm not so sure, because it's looking like the way RJ Barrett played last season, the way Scottie Barnes has improved so much, it's looking like Immanuel Quickley is the 3rd best player on this team, and in that case, really difficult to thrust himself up into that role. But on the fringes of an all-star appearance is where I see Immanuel Quickley developing going forward. Shifting over to the player who I said was probably the 2nd best player in the team with the way he played last season, and that is RJ Barrett. Now, we saw a dramatic ascent from RJ Barrett compared to his time with the New York Knicks after arriving to the Raptors. His shot quality just improved substantially. And that is where RJ Barrett took his game to the next level, from a 3-point shooting standpoint and from an interior scoring standpoint. But what is it going to take for RJ Barrett to reach his absolute ceiling? What does that look like? I think RJ Barrett from a ceiling, look, I don't think RJ Barrett is really scratching what he could achieve as a former 3rd overall pick in a pretty loaded draft class. He went 3rd in a pretty loaded draft class. A lot of years, RJ Barrett and the talent that he presented in high school and that he presented in his season with Duke, in a lot of seasons, that lands RJ Barrett as a 1st overall pick, but it just so happened, Zion Williamson was in that draft. It just so happened that Ja Morant was in that draft. And it's going to take a lot for RJ Barrett to get to that point, but where we're going to have to see the improvements for RJ Barrett is the consistency on the 3 is there. Just keep doing it. Keep on knocking down 3s and maybe even increase the volume there. From an interior scoring standpoint, look, if he can continue to finish the way he was for the Raptors, that's going to be fine as well. From a playmaking standpoint, there are good signs just continue to improve. The big measure of improvement will be on the defensive end of the floor. RJ Barrett absolutely has the size and the frame to be a fantastic wing defender. If he can add that element to his game, oh my goodness, is he going to be one of the more valuable players in the NBA. That's the difference right now. RJ Barrett right now is just not that good of a defender. Struggles to keep his player in front of him, really struggles to be disruptive on the perimeter, and can't really defend on the inside. He's got the body to do it. Can we work on this aspect of his game and just turn him into a premier defender? I think that there is a high-tier ceiling trajectory where RJ Barrett could accomplish that. If he does and becomes this monster two-way star in the NBA, RJ Barrett's been around a while, but he is only 24 years old. We're not even close to getting to what his prime could look like in the NBA. In that absolute ceiling that I'm drawing up here, that's a multi-time all-star. If he can produce these levels offensively and bring more defensively to the floor as well and bring high-tier defense as well, that is somebody who is going to be a multi-time all-star. Realistically, I just want RJ Barrett to be not a negative defender. Maybe a slight positive defender while maintaining these levels on the offensive end of the floor in some capacity. Look, the numbers that he produced are astronomical, above a 60% effective field goal percentage. I'm not suggesting that that's going to continue, but more so replicating what he did in the second half of last season when he was with the Raptors. This is a player that can comfortably average, I think, 23 points per game in the NBA, bring good levels of defense. That's somebody who is definitely capable of sneaking into an all-star team at some point or another in their NBA career. An exciting player for the Raptors to have because of how much he has shifted public opinion on him and my opinion of him when coming to the Raptors. But that leads us to the most exciting player to try and think about what their ceiling is, and that is Scottie Barnes. And I kind of toyed with this one before recording this, and honestly, for Scottie Barnes, as far as a ceiling is concerned, I don't really like to set a ceiling. I don't know what ceiling there could be for Barnes as a player. There's not one skill, one piece of development, an idea that you can give me that I would say he can't do that. He can absolutely become a knockdown three-point shooter. He is showing signs of development there, showing a lot more signs than a lot of other people potentially from his draft class and for his age, having just turned 23 years old. He absolutely has the capabilities to be a monster on the interior from a scoring standpoint, to work on his post game, to become a lot more efficient on the inside. Defensively, If he's deployed as a help defense 4, that is his best role, but he has improved slightly from perimeter defense. That still needs work, but he's improving there. And I think he become an absolutely hounding big wing defender in the perimeter areas. He has been deployed as a small ball 5 before, where his rim protection, honestly, is pretty good as well. But all of these things, like playmaking, already a gifted passer, great court vision. Can we fine tune that? Like all of the skills, every tool that you need to be an NBA player, like he has a little bit of that. So why can't all of these things scale up? Maybe not all together, of course. Then you'd have like the greatest player ever assembled, but there are so many skills to his game that he can continue to scale up at just 23 years old, still on his rookie contract, that from a ceiling standpoint, like if absolutely everything clicks, like ceiling, absolute ceiling, why can't this guy be in an MVP conversation? I don't think that's outlandish to say. It's a long way to go. I recognize that. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen this season, but down the line when we get to his prime, he's got every tool to succeed and get to the absolute pinnacle of this sport. From a realistic standpoint, what can we expect out of Scottie Barnes? Well, for starters, the thing that is going to help him reach the next level, first of all, is continue to work on that three-point game. He was pretty good last season, but a little bit more consistency. I think the big area where Barnes is going to sharpen up and go from 20 points per game to potentially 23, 24 plus points per game is the efficiency on the inside. Having a little bit more in his bag and showing that aggression on the inside a little bit more often. Sometimes he saves it for the fourth quarter. Can we get it for 48 minutes? Can we get more aggression on the inside? And can we get some more craftiness when we want to get those finishes on the inside? Maybe add a post game to his arsenal. Defensively, use him like Jaren Jackson Jr. is used when he has an actual big next to him. Use him like Giannis when Brook Lopez was in his best years as a rim protector. Use these guys to come in late and hound players at the rim while also showing the signs of being able to stretch out and play on the perimeter as well. Scottie Barnes really has been tasked throughout his years with the Raptors to guard every position and every sort of player out there. Continue to try and push that, but focus in on the best part of his defense, which is that help defense in the power forward position. Offensively, again, work on the interior scoring, but like I said, everything is slowly going to be able to scale up for this player, and the sky truly is the limit. As far as a realistic projection of where I see him, he's already been an all-star. I don't see why we can't see multiple all-star appearances in his time with the Raptors and multiple appearances in the 6 years that he is under contract with the Raptors, and hopefully an extension is on the way as Scottie Barnes does continue to improve and improve in his time with the Toronto Raptors. It's exciting to have him a part of this team, and it's exciting to have all three of these players, but a lot of where the Raptors are going in the future is staked on these players individually developing and taking this team to the next level. This team will go as far as these players will take it, especially Scottie Barnes, so let's try and enjoy the ride along the way. So how far do you think these players will go? Give me all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, because that's all from today's video. Drop a like if you did enjoy. Make sure to subscribe to Amateur Sports for more Raptors content, and we'll see you again next time for another video.